welcome back to The Moment. It is your host, Meredith Lynch. It is December 12th. I want to send a happy birthday shout out to my dad and Frank Sinatra. May he rest in power. Rebecca Senenez is with me as always as my wonderful co-host, and I'm so excited. I call her a friend of the show. I call her a friend in real life. Karine Jean-Pierre is here with us as our guest co-host.
Hi, guys.
Hi,
everybody. Good.
You're here.
Look at that lipstick.
Give a shout out to that lipstick. That lipstick is like whatever the correct shade is what is happening there.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I appreciate that. I was hoping it would work, and it did.
So it worked.
Hey, when your dad's birthday, your dad's birthday is shared with Frank Sinatra. It's not Frank Sinatra is related to you. It's your dad's.
No, it's
okay.
I really like my dad, but if I had to pick a backup dad, Ronan Farrow, I would do the same thing as you.
I was just gonna say you and Ronan Farrow are.
I can see it. I can see the relation. The relation there. I could see. Yeah.
Well,
that'd be great.
She needs no introduction, but I'm going to give her one anyways. Karine Jean-Pierre was the White House press secretary and senior advisor to former President Joe Biden. She's worked in senior communications and political offices in both the Biden and Obama administrations. Prior to her time in the White House, Jean-Pierre was the chief public affairs officer for MoveOn.org. Karine is the author of a memoir, Moving Forward, and the recently published Independent. She's a graduate of Columbia University. Karine, welcome back to The Moment.
Thank you. Thank you for including me, having me back. It's great to be on with the two of you. You know, I'm huge fans, so thank you.
Oh, also say for the record, Karine is also just like a uniquely kind person.
Oh,
I've met so many people in media and politics that I'm like, oh, you make me feel awful. And Karine is like, whatever the opposite of the feeling of that is. Like, it's an unexpected. It's like almost unexpected how lovely Karine is.
Oh, thanks. Well, there's nothing. It costs nothing to be kind. Truly, it costs nothing to be kind. Don't be walked over. Don't kind of stand your ground and don't let people think you're a pushover. But kindness takes nothing, and it pays. I mean, it's free. It's like it costs nothing.
More of us need that, including President Donald Trump. This week, the U.S. has major escalation of tensions in Venezuela. The U.S. seized an oil tanker. The U.S. in Venezuela, this is after, bombing of boats in the Caribbean. The U.S. says they took the tanker because it was going against sanctions against Venezuela and Iran. Venezuela says, like, what are you guys, a bunch of pirates? We're basically operating like the Houthis down in the Caribbean, as far as I can tell. So my question to the group that I genuinely cannot figure out, and I keep on listening to other people's podcasts, what is the fixation with Venezuela? Like, why do you think the Trump administration is so fixated on Venezuela? Is it oil? Karine, you tell me what's going on.
I mean, he's a grifter. It's all about making money. If you look at how much money he has made in just the 11 months since he's been president, it's all about his bottom line. That's what it is. If it leads to him making more money, then he will do it. And that's how he is using the office. It is, he's not a conventional Republican, right? This is not normal. This is not normal behavior. No other president, whether you have a D behind your name or an R behind your name, would do such blatant, take the office in such a disregard and make it about yourself and your bank account and do it in the most egregious way. And he is empowered to do it. He clearly is empowered to do it. To him, it's all about the money. He's a grifter. This is the biggest grift, which is being president of the United States for him.
Yeah, I know. There's the East Wing is lying in rubble. So I feel like I didn't even like Venezuela was like very much a story about a foreign country during the Biden administration. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't in tension with the United States. Can you like remind me? Can you give me context for like what our relationship with Venezuela was just a few?
I mean, it's basically it's basically what you just stated. What we're seeing being done by this president is unusual and dangerous and crazy and insane, and it should be written as such, and should be called out. These are things that one of the things that President Biden used to say all the time was once he came in, he had to redo the relationships with our allies, with our partners, because of the damage that was done from the first Trump administration. And a lot of those partners and allies that we had, he would say this. He would say, look, they didn't even trust us. He did the work to mend it, but they didn't trust us that Donald Trump would come back again, right? They didn't trust it if like this, we wouldn't go back to what it was before, and we had to work really hard with those relationships. And it is because when you are president, you're trying to do it, or you should do it, and you do it for the betterment of the country, for the American people. And also you're trying to be a global leader in the world, right? And how things hopefully should look like, should be done. And you don't get everything right. And it's very difficult. It's very hard. But to lean in and do what Trump did, it's undoing relationships that we do. It's really breaking protocol and how the United States used to behave and do things. And so it's just insanity. It's sanity. We have no business being there. What are we doing in the Caribbean? What's happening? Like, why?
I also feel like this is going to be the kind of thing where it's like Freakonomics. Like this week, a friend also sent me an article about how we're doing data collection of tourists now to look at their social media. Oh yeah. And I feel like when I see these stories, I think, okay, like there's this like short-term like intensity that we're seeing, but I also feel like in 20 years from now, we're going to be like, oh, look at like this hole in our economy that like has to go back to what is happening now. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like I can't imagine this isn't going to have like
here's
long term.
Here's the thing. You look at Project 2025, 50% of it, close to 50% of it was done by October. And a lot of the damage that's been done, whether it's federal agencies, whether it's undoing policies or hurting our relationships with partners and allies across the board, across the world, it has taken us back 40, 60 years. A lot of things that we're seeing has taken us back 40 to 60 years. So what happens to the future is when things are certainly broken like this, what we're going to have to do is reimagine how do we rebuild things, reimagine how do we do things. And now we can't even build it back the way that it was before. You look at the Department of Education. It's gutted. It's completely gutted. And you can't do it the same way because obviously the system was fundamentally broken. But things that were protecting us, our freedoms, our democracy, has been undone. Yeah.
Super bummer.
I mean,
it's like you're like, oh God.
I'm sorry, that's a great bummer.
No. I mean, it's the truth. It's true.
Yeah, I mean, this is why you all are having this conversation. This is why the moment exists. This is why you guys talk about the hot topics. These are things that we need to talk about and educate people and make sure people are aware. And you can't turn it off because
you can't turn it off. Yeah.
You can't turn
it off. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, speaking of not turning things off, it was a busy day yesterday up on the Hill. Okay. Sure. So Congress had sort of this split screen day. The House overwhelmingly passed a $900 billion defense policy bill that includes troop pay raises, renewed Ukraine aid, and major procurement reforms, sending the package over to the Senate. But over in the upper chamber, senators rejected legislation to extend the Affordable Care Act, which means those health insurance premiums are going to go up. So I actually am here in DC. I was up on the Hill yesterday, hearing a lot, seeing a lot. A lot of holiday parties going on. I can tell you that. But also,
Yes, that's true.
like, I know I was like in the elevator and this guy's like, well, we got 8 holiday parties between now and tomorrow. And you know what, sir? I actually really liked your voice. So that was a compliment. That impression was a compliment. But I think it was kind of crazy to watch I was watching on C-SPAN right before I went up to the Hill. The Republicans tried to pass this thing that would have given people more money for their HSAs. So like that was their solution to the problem, right? Like, how do we give more money to HSAs? And I then met with Representative Jimmy Gomez, who's from California, and he brought up this great point to me, not that it passed, but he was like, a lot of people don't even have an HSA. Like, savings account isn't something that everybody has. And it's
I
also
was just going to say, I don't have an HSA. Like,
right. And then the other piece of it is like, even if you have one, I've been balling on a budget before. I don't know about y'all, but I've looked at the beginning of the package and gone, I'm not putting money into the HSA. Like,
I
I'm
don't have one. It's like, I got bigger fish to fry.
Right. And so I think it was this very interesting thing. But then, of course, we saw then the Democrats had theirs and that did not pass. Although we did see Senators Hawley, Collins, who else? Sullivan and Murkowski all voted with the Dems. And so this is a question that I have for Karine.
Yeah.
Do you think, like, when a Susan Collins gets up and votes that way and votes with the Dems, that she's like, oh, I really believe in this package and I would love if it passed? Or is she voting because she wants to send the message to her constituents in Maine, like, oh, I really wanted it, but knowing like it's never going to have the votes to pass. So I look good on every level.
Yeah, look, politics isn't everything that you see happening right now, so unfortunately. And I think that's why people feel very disillusioned in this moment. And look, as you were speaking, Meredith, and talking about what happened yesterday, it brings me back to the shutdown. Right? That and it really angers me because the 8 Democrats in the Senate decided to move forward and end the shutdown when the wind was at their back, right? They came out of a successful election in November where they just won across the board, that Republicans were losing. People were actually seeing the shutdown being at the foot of Republicans. And they had momentum. Mm-hmm. And to have ended the shutdown, and don't get me wrong, it's I don't want to see people out of work. I think it's important that federal workers get paid. I know what it's like. I know what it's like when you're trying to figure out how you're going to feed your family or what you're gonna do that month just to survive. So don't get me wrong. But they had the momentum. They had, I believe, and many people believe, that the backs of Republicans was up against up against the wall, and they cornered them, and we were headed into Thanksgiving, and they got nothing out of. I mean, so people had to suffer for all those weeks, more than a month, and they got nothing out of it, and that the fight was about healthcare, right? The fight was about healthcare. And this moment that we're in, what's happened in the last 24, 48 hours wouldn't have happened, I don't think, if they had held their ground. Yeah. And so now we're in this situation where nothing's going to come out of this.
Right. Everybody knew this was not going to go anywhere. No. Right? Like nobody was like, yep, this is what's going to save the ACA subsidies, this vote.
No, exactly. And where was the fight? I mean, they had it. They had the win at their back. Like the people were speaking, they were voting, they were saying, here, this is what we want from you all.
People were excited.
And And then 4 or 5 days later, after the election, they're like, okay, shut down.
I know. So before we get to Barbara Comstock, our guest today, Barbara Comstock, by the way, is our first Republican guest on this show, which makes it very exciting. Yeah.
Congratulations to you guys. That's great for you guys. That's
great. Yeah, we're really excited. And it's exciting for you to be here for that. But so like speaking of these ACA, I feel like really what everybody's getting down to is like the affordability problem has not gone away for Americans. But Trump was on.
Can you just add what I just heard too yesterday? Yeah, I heard on the radio unemployment applications are up for the highest time since 2020. And so, and like Trump, and so just look at that. That's just like, if affordability, if the economy is not doing well and things are getting more expensive and now more people have less jobs, just had to add that because I was like, that is, that's
which
exactly.
also, by the way,
we're basically back in like COVID times, which were
that's exactly, that's
that
the
was horrible for no reason. You know what I mean? It's like COVID times, it was like everything shut down.
And by the way, he was president when everything was going horribly wrong
for COVID. But Rebecca, I cut you off, but I just had to throw that in.
That's a perfect, that's exactly right. But I just wanted to play us a clip. So Trump is like back on the campaign trail. Susie Wiles says he's on, going to be on the ballot in 2026. But like, here's what he had to say about affordability.
She might regret saying that.
I think. Well, I was going to ask you about this, so I just quickly want to. I want to talk about this rally really quick, and then we'll move on to it.
Yes.
Jenna, do we have that clip?
Affordability. So they look at the camera and they say, "This election is all about affordability." And I can't say affordability hoax because I agree the prices were too high, so I can't go to hoax because they'll misconstrue that. But they use the word affordability, and that's their only word. They say affordability, and everyone says, oh, that must mean Trump has high prices. No, our prices are coming down tremendously from the highest prices in the history of our country.
Okay, how long, Karine, is he going to be able to ride the Biden administration on this one? Right?
Well,
like,
here's the thing: his approval rating is at like 36%. I mean, like, right? It's like he's woefully unpopular. Let's be clear: when he started his first 100 days, he had no mandate, and he was going to be headed towards being one of the most unpopular presidents of our time. Like, I mean, I mean, this was where it was headed even 9-10 months ago. I mean, look, it is an easy talking point for him to go after the Biden administration. That's what he does. That's what he, that he goes after his political rivals. There's nothing new. It's the same old, same old. But also, he's, like I said, he's unpopular. We saw the results in November and what people are saying. You see 7 million people coming out for the No Kings rally. People are not stupid, right? They're seeing what is happening. And around the holidays is one of the moments where you see prices are up, cost is up. And so I think I suppose the reason that he was doing a rally in Pennsylvania in December of 2025 is because of that, is because his polling is bad. The messaging they need better messaging, or, you see what happened about affordability. I mean, Democrats ran on affordability across the country. That was something that actually resonated. And so now they have him out there speaking, but it's not going to, I mean, people see right through it. And I do think in November of next year, post midterm election, they're going to regret saying that he's on the ballot.
I agree.
And it's going to blow up. I mean, people are responding and saying and this is too much. This is too much.
I also think the worst thing presidents do, I think presidents want credit for economic gains, and American people, like, nothing is more maddening if you cannot pay your bills than having a president say, like, prices are down, the economy is good. It's like, the American people I hate that. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm tired.
Yeah, and to be fair, we did the same thing, right? But we were looking at the data and we were saying, look, the economy is better. Here's where we are. We're not where we were a year ago. And while the data was, we didn't hide the job numbers like the current administration.
You didn't fire
we did do those things. We actually were very honest about what was happening and what was going on. But what was happening is that people weren't feeling it, right? They weren't feeling in their pocketbook how the economy was changing and making their lives a little better, because even though the prices went down, they were still higher than they had expected it to be, or when it was before COVID, or all of those things that really made it very scary for people on affordability. And I think this is why in this past election cycle in 2025, Democrats were able to talk about affordability. They were you saw that just across the board about the importance of making sure people can pay their rent, people can put food on their table. But this administration has just turned the clock backwards, sadly, as you were just saying, Meredith, as you were, talking about where the economy is right now with unemployment. But it is a messaging. We even had that messaging issue when we were in the administration, and it's hard to break it through. It's hard to coin that and make sure that people understand that you're doing everything that you can for them.
It's such like an emotional, I think that's part, it's like, it's so emotional for people that it's like reconciling data versus like, hey, I can't afford the base. Like I have this sometimes where I'm like,
and we saw to add one thing, because we have a lot of young women who listen to our show, and anytime you start a new job, I want to let you know you can always blame the last person, but you can't do it for like that long.
You get a full year.
Like, you can you can go like 6 months being like, oh, it's just like Debbie, the accounting was crap with her here. If it's like 2.5 years in and you're still blaming Debbie, people are going to start to notice.
You're like, there's a window, folks. There's a window.
That's right.
There's a window.
That's right.
There's a window. Yeah. I mean,
Well, let's bring in our new guest, who I want to talk about the Republican Party that she not has left, but the Congress that she left. We have with us former Representative Barbara Comstock. She is a former Republican member of Congress from Virginia. She served in the Virginia General Assembly, at the Justice Department, and as chief of counsel to the House Oversight Committee, which is an interesting place to be now. She's been recognized as one of the most effective lawmakers in Congress, and now serves as an ABC News political contributor, offering sharp analysis on the future of the Republican Party and American politics. Welcome, Representative Barbara Comstock. We're so happy to have you. Oop, you're on mute. We're still happy to have you.
Well, you're great.
This is, garland. Difficulties happen.
Loving that garland.
Yeah, I know. You're starting to see.
I gotta say, it looks pretty in DC right now. Like it really, and I'm like, oh, I mean, yes,
the cold.
Yeah,
it's cold.
You missed the snow. The snow last year. So beautiful.
Oh,
so gorgeous. Like in the trees, on the grass. It was
the lights. Like it's the best. I will say, I did go to Georgetown yesterday, and so many National Guard.
Okay, I unmuted my mic. Is that sorry, this is a new system for me.
So happy to have you. Welcome to the moment.
Okay. Good to be with you.
Oh,
what's that?
There we go.
He's welcomed as well.
Oh my goodness.
What's their name?
That is Bella.
Oh, Bella?
Which maybe
she could be a co-host.
Maybe Bella.
What kind of dogs are they?
That is a golden retriever. Would you like me to let her outside?
Golden retrievers are the best.
She's welcome here.
I will go let her outside.
You got it.
Golden retrievers.
Go let her outside.
Right? Oh my God. Love a golden retriever.
Yeah. Oh my God. They're the sweetest. And they're always smiling.
I'm also happy that it's not for once Romeo, my dog, who's usually like very vocal during.
What kind of dog do you have?
He is a pug chihuahua mix.
Okay.
And his birthday is on Saturday.
Oh my God.
Last night, so I have this upstairs neighbor that he loves a lot. And yesterday she knocked on my door and I wasn't paying attention. I had my red light mask on. Hello, welcome back. And he ran upstairs and went to her house and I didn't notice. And she came back downstairs and was like, did you notice that your dog came upstairs?
Adorbs.
We're so happy to have you.
Nice to be with you all.
Hello.
Let's get into it. Okay. I want to start with, you recently wrote an op-ed. You've been speaking out against the Trump administration's slashing of DEI initiatives. You've said that the administration's DEI approach is actually fueling division and threatening the country's sense of common purpose. I want to ask you, like, when was the moment that you looked at what he was doing and you were like, this is a problem?
Well, really, it's not just that he's going after the DEI programs. It's a fault. What they're going after isn't even DEI programs. They're going well beyond that. So even for people who might have some issues with how DEI programs, if they might think they go overboard or whatever, what they're doing goes well beyond that. And it's just a political ruse to go after things that they just politically disagree with. And one of the examples, actually, I don't think it ended up in that column, but at the Defense Department, there was a program for the peace program for women. There was actually a law that was put in place by, of all people, Marco Rubio and Kristi Noem. It was a bill that they sponsored with Jeanne Shaheen. And Hegseth was particularly asked about it in his confirmation hearings and said he would keep that program in place. And then he dismantled it. It was a law signed into law by Donald Trump in the first administration. And then he says, oh, this is woke stuff. I think he used a more crude word. And then he dismantles something that Trump put into law and that Kristi Noem, of all people, praised Trump for doing this and that Hegseth promised he would do. So this is when you realize these guys are out of control. He can't dismantle something that is there by law, but of course they're doing so many things day after day that they're just out of control. And then at the education department, of course, where they're just ripping the education department, and dismantling all kinds of departments. Linda McMahon, secretary, was asked in a hearing about, what can we teach? Which, of course, the Department of Education shouldn't be telling local schools what they can teach because, hey, as a Republican, we used to always say, this should be state and local things. You shouldn't be doing this. But they were asking, hey, is it DEI if we want to teach about Ruby Bridges and the Tulsa massacre? These are, of course, basic things that, injustices in our history that have been taught for years and certainly should be taught. I mean, Ruby Bridges, you have these, iconic stories that I certainly have taught, my granddaughter about Ruby Bridges and my daughter, and it certainly should be taught. Yeah. And first of all, it seemed like Linda McMahon was not familiar with either of those stories. So that was horrendous. And she said something to the effect of, well, I'll have to get back to you on that. Well, this isn't a mother may I that we're have to ask somebody who is ignorant of basic history whether we can teach this. So, of course, it's not DEI. So they're just going so out of control on these things. And then when you had, it actually initially was Lindsay Halligan, the illegally blonde, U.S. attorney now who's trying to not allowed to, I usually would not be attacking, women attorneys.
No, you're in there.
As blondes, you're in good as blondes. We need to check our fellow blondes, right?
Yes, exactly. She's an embarrassment as someone who is at the Justice Department. She is an embarrassment to the legal establishment. She's not qualified to be there. And clearly, she's failed now to, go after the president's, political opponents. And that's what she was put there for. And the fact that she would allow herself to be used in that way, shows, that she doesn't know what she's doing. And of course, Pam Bondi is it I would put in the same category. But so there you go. And not to pick on them, Todd Blanche, let's make him a mimbo, okay? So, Lindsay, before she was put there, was saying, gee, this African-American museum, we got to fix that because they're focused on slavery too much. I mean, my God, in the first Trump administration, when they opened the slavery museum, Bush and Obama went there, opened it, praised everything. This was great. Trump himself went and said, isn't this wonderful? everybody, of course, came together. This was a moment of unity. Nobody had a problem with the museum. And now, because of course, this Project 2025, which really is the agenda behind their so-called anti-DEI efforts. So that's, it's really Project 2025, not an anti-DEI.
You have an echo. Figure it out.
Can you guys hear me?
We can. We just have a little.
But we also can't see you.
Oh, I'm here. It's weird. It just went out. I don't.
Vienna, do you want to mute for 1 second?
Yeah, sure.
There we go. How about that? Okay.
So that was my long answer. I'm sorry.
Well, I guess my question. I'm trying again. How about now?
I think Karine might need to leave and come back in. I think that's probably.
Yeah, let me come back because I don't know what happened.
Well, here's one question that I have for you, Representative Comstock. So, you bring up these examples of this is something that Trump signed into law, or Trump went to the museum and said it was so wonderful. It feels like we have a very different. I didn't like Trump in 2016. I don't like Trump in 2024, but I think we have a different Trump than we had 8 years ago. And I'm wondering, most people don't change this late in life, we kind of develop our personalities.
Is not when they have a change of heart.
So I'm kind of wondering, what do you think happened? What has happened to Trump in these years? Because he is worse than he was, and he is making these changes and now has issues with these museums that he used to love, or doesn't like these bills that he signed in before.
Well, I do think this is the real Trump. I mean, if you go back in history, the Roy Cohn Trump, in his first administration, he had sort of, I didn't support him. I didn't vote for him in 2016 or any time. But in the first administration, he did have more normal Republicans around him who they passed things like, and Kristi Noem and Rubio used to be more normal. I sponsored that bill that they passed. So there were more traditional Republican things that were done. And you had people there who were still trying to do the kind of typical things that, the Republicans weren't doing these kind of outrageous things. Then certainly we got attacked anyway for doing some of these things, but it wasn't the kind of just blatant, Charlottesville was, and certainly many of us attacked that at the time. But now it's all wheels off. The racism is just out there blatantly. The misogyny is just, I thought it was there from day one, but it is every day. The attacks on the reporters, it's just constant, never stopping. So I think this is the real Trump. He feels liberated. The fact that he came back from the dead makes him feel like, hey, they love me the way I am. And so
now,
and the people around him do not, to be there in the White House and to remain is to allow him to be himself. Because the first term, the people who kept getting fired were the people who were trying to contain him and say, oh, you can't do that, you can't do that. And, like the people who said, you can't say that, what he said after Charlottesville, those are the people that went by the wayside. So the reason he's doing this now is because, he wants to be himself.
It's the real him. You got to give him credit. Brene Brown always says, show up with authenticity at work. At least he's showing up with his most authentic self.
And his authentic self, I know you were mentioning he was at 36, but look at the economy. They've let him do his tariffs.
Yep.
It's a Republican who's always been opposed to tariffs. Tariffs are taxes. I'm not a big tax person. This is, and now the Tax Foundation, a Republican group, has said this is the highest tax increase that Republicans have ever supported. On the economy, he's now at 31%. So he has embraced his, he loves tariffs. He said that up in Pennsylvania. You've got a tax cutting governor in Governor Shapiro, one of my favorite Democrats up there, love his tax cutting. And if you're a Republican, that district he was in, a freshman Republican is going to be on the ballot next year with a tax cutting Democrat governor. And he stood there with having voted, hey, I'm all for this guy's tariffs that are killing our economy, 31% popularity for his economy stuff. And I'm embracing these tariffs, the highest tax that has ever been put, by Republicans. I never voted for a tax increase as a Republican, and I sure wouldn't want to be on a ballot with a tax cutting Democrat. The only thing I can say to Democrats is, boy, get out there and bash these tax increasing Republicans as much as you can, because that is not what Republicans are supposed to be for. And my former governor, George Allen in Virginia, he's on the Supreme Court case brief saying these are tax increases and that they are, unconstitutional. So you've got lots of Republican support behind you.
Well, I feel like speaking of which, I want to talk to you about the future of the Republican Party, because it does feel like since the shutdown, we're seeing, and maybe it was already there, but we're seeing almost like a reshuffling. And I feel like the most obvious of this is Marjorie Taylor Greene, who went on 60 Minutes, and I just want to play a clip from that, how she sort of described these factions, and they want to ask you about it. Deanna, do we have that clip?
MAGA?
I am America first.
And that's not the same as MAGA.
MAGA is President Trump's phrase. That's his political policies. I call myself America first.
But you're not saying you're MAGA.
I'm America first. Yep.
So this to me was some really interesting rebranding. And it really said to me, in 2026, 2028, maybe we're going to see a Republican Party that's America first and MAGA. And then also you're a Republican and don't really fit into any of these categories as far as I can tell. Can you describe to me where you think the Republican Party is going?
Oh, I think it's kind of falling apart. It's kind of the know nothings. Which is, listen, Trump is Trump first. He's transactional. He doesn't care about the party. He doesn't, obviously, Marjorie Taylor Greene was, here she is telling him, hey, I'm getting death threats. My kids are getting death threats. She sends the death threats to him so that he sees them. And he still calls her Marjorie Trader Greene. And, all the death threats that he made against the Indiana legislators, and God bless them that they, rejected them. Said, boy, Mike Pence obviously put, there's something in the water in Indiana that they could actually stand up to him. And if only the Republicans in Congress could do the same. So maybe that's a little, bit of a comeback there. Maybe some of those guys will run for Congress or do something there. But no, I think it's just sort of breaking up. I do think this overperformance you've seen is because of, their economic policies. Tariffs are a disaster. This isolationism, the America First isolationism, I totally oppose as a Reagan Republican. So, Democrats are more representing my sort of Reagan NATO support. I think Marjorie is wanting to get rid of NATO and things like that. Trump is now, more on the side of Russia, so that our allies aren't even sharing, intelligence with us to some extent now. So that's certainly disturbing. His foreign affairs team, whether it's Tulsi Gabbard or Hegseth, or it's a troubling team, and they've sidelined Rubio, who's kind of put whatever he's doing. It's kind of
whatever Rubio's doing.
Yeah, he's changing fonts. He's changing fonts. That's how he's worried about the fonts now. But he's not. Why we have Kushner doing Rubio's job and why Rubio is allowing that to happen is kind of a sad state of affairs for him. But no, I think the party's just kind of imploding, and I think what it's going to take is for them to lose the House, which I expect they will lose, but I think you're also going to have unexpected losses in the Senate. And I think until Trump just sort of, drags them down to the studs, they aren't going to rebuild. I think they'll be rebuilding on the state level where, you've seen some people like in Indiana where they say, we've got other things that we care about here. I think you'll see maybe some governors who might do some rebuilding, or some new people, on the governor level, the state level, who will say, I don't want to see what happened in Virginia, that just happened in Virginia, by following the MAGA, people off the cliff. I'd like to, be my own man or my own woman and my own brand and do my own thing. And what I think is the conservative, what meets the moment for conservatives. And I think that's where the party will rebuild, is at that state level, because on the congressional level, there just isn't anything really remotely happening right now, because they're just all afraid of Trump. And so until that sort of washes out, I think there's not a lot of hope there. You don't see any leadership coming from Congress.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you, is who's next? J.D. Vance?
Well, no, now the Democrats have to get their act together. I supported Abigail Spanberger in Virginia. I was thrilled to see, she had a great campaign. I think, Cheryl in New Jersey had the same. And so I think people who will have their own brand like that too, and, puts together their team, I think that, solving problems, like I like Shapiro. He likes to get stuff done. I have family up there. I like when 95 fell apart and he got that built really fast. And he's really looking at, I think earlier this week, there was a sit down with Governor Stitt of Oklahoma, Republican, and Governor Shapiro talking about energy and what we're going to do about energy. And they were talking about data centers too. I work on that, full disclosure, but they were talking about the economy and energy and how we're going to win the AI race. But it was like really practical stuff where when you were listening to both of them and they were talking about jobs for their states and more energy for their states and what they could do for sort of the 21st century economy, you almost wouldn't have known which was a Democrat and which was a Republican. And then, to go back to Shapiro too, you can tell I like him a lot, but he was also doing an event with Governor Cox from Utah, and the two of them were talking about civility. And again, you had two people who were like, isn't this nice? This is what people want. Two smart people who you could sleep at night with either of these people governing the country, or having cabinets that are made up of Governor Cox's and Governor Stitz's and Governor Shapiro's, Governor Sherrill's, Governor Spanberger, and we could all rest easy with any of those people in charge. And it would be nice, I think, if we started, getting people like that back in charge.
Yeah. Look, Congresswoman, I just wanted to ask you, and I agree with you. I think you saw what Democrats were able to do in New Jersey and, in Virginia, and it was really grassroots, talking directly to the American people. And it showed, I think, how Democrats can be a big tent party, because each of those races were different than the other, right? It's different. It's just a different state, different place. And so you have to talk to people. So when you meet them where they are. And I wanted to ask you, have you, as a former Congresswoman and obviously part of the Republican Party, have you had conversations with your colleagues in Congress and talked to them about what's happening and, what's their thinking, and how do they, are they just going to fall in line with what's happening with the White House and Trump, or are they going to retire, or are they going to try and figure out how to get out of this? How did it get out under Trump?
I think they've fallen into the trap of, the other side is awful and that kind of thing. And they can't, and they're just in that mode of, I do think you're going to see a lot more retirements too, because I think, listen, you saw the RNC chairman is saying, oh, this is a disaster. We're going to get wiped out. Of course, everyone, you always lose in the midterms. So I do think there's just sort of hey, if I'm not here, the people replacing me are going to be worse, which they're right about that, in a lot of instances. Because look, Marjorie Taylor Greene replaced a pretty sensible Republican, and a lot of these people who've come in and who are some of the worst Republicans replaced, more sensible people. So, they kind of hang in and try. A lot of them are trying to do things behind the scenes. So that's what they tell you, hey, behind the scenes, we're trying to get things done. But look at this healthcare situation. Healthcare, for 15 years. Listen, I went in saying, hey, we want to repeal and replace and do that. But then when we got there, they want it, we all said we also aren't going to do anything that doesn't, deal with pre-existing conditions. And the first thing the Freedom Caucus wanted to do was blow up the pre-existing condition situation. And so we said, no, we're not going to vote for anything that doesn't deal with pre-existing conditions. So I voted against the Republican repeal, just like John McCain and Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski, and there were 17 of us in the House, because ultimately, when it came down to it, you can't, you're not going to leave people worse off than they are. You don't, it's life and death healthcare. It's not really a red and blue issue. You got to have it better than what the situation is. And for 15 years, Republicans haven't been able to come up with something better. And the fact that Republicans can't, at this point, by Monday, say, hey, we haven't come up with something better, so we have to do an extension, at least of what we have, whether it's for a year or 2 years while because we're in charge. You cannot say to somebody who's pregnant or getting cancer treatment or whatever the situation is, because they're in your family, they're in your district, just like they're in Democratic districts. Right. You just can't do that. And Don Bacon has been saying to them, listen, you're going to go home and you're going to look your constituents in the eye, and you can, I saw some Republican on TV this morning saying, oh, well, but some people who are getting this make a lot of money and this and that. And it's like, okay, well, you've had a year to figure that out and you didn't do it. So you've got to extend it, then work on it. But the people who you are sticking it to and, increasing their premiums by, an amount that they can't pay are the ones who are going to be giving birth in January and February and March and deciding whether they can get their cancer treatment, and you're giving them nothing. And that is, I can't even believe that someone's going to go home and do that at Christmas. Like, that is a disgrace, and you should just resign if that's what you're.
Yes.
And how do you even, I would just be going crazy sitting there doing that. Don Bacon gets it. He's leaving it, and he's leaving, and he's saying that. But I don't, and I do know what it's like sitting in that caucus, because you just had, you see them all on TV, what they're like, and they just say, well, you can't do this because this is wrong. And this, and the thing is, they're all in red districts. There's more of them in the red districts. So they're going to find out. And I think that this overperformance that you've seen by the Democrats, and the Democrats should make sure they do what was done in Virginia. They need to run in every single district, because you are going to have surprises. I remember I was at Abigail's party on election night, and I remember, what the caucus chair saying. He said, gosh, we may be winning in a district tonight where we didn't spend any money, and I didn't even meet the candidate running because we didn't think we had any chance. Now, they lost it by just a little, but that's how close things got, is candidates who had no shot of winning almost won because of these affordability issues and these bread and butter issues. And that's why this year, that's how bad it is, because the Republicans are so out of tune. They're so afraid of Trump, and they are listening. None of them will stand up to him on tariffs, which is, to me, insane, because they know it's a tax increase. So Republicans for tax increases going into a race with that. And Republicans for tax increases and for sticking it to people on healthcare seems like, for a Democrat, just stick to that. Don't get on crazy things. Just do that.
Well, and you saw that in the mayor's race in Miami, right? This is what's happening, to your point, Congresswoman.
And then they'll end up doing what the candidate here in Virginia did. they'll start talking about bathrooms, and it's like,
Yeah.
give me a break. It's
Well,
not.
I gotta,
You'll know
I gotta
you're winning. You're winning big when they start talking
Yeah.
about bathrooms.
Yeah.
you are our first Republican guest, and you have set the bar very high, Representative Comstock. I just have to say, I want to thank you for coming in here and really just showing us the reasonable side of your party. I think that this episode is really important for people to watch and to have a better understanding of what, like, especially if you're Gen Z and really you only remember Trump, like there used to be
That's
a different Republican Party.
Exactly.
And Representative Comstock, I hope you will come back and join us again, because I think there's a few more things that we need to talk about.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to. And I'll tell you, I still am a Republican. I know Republicans get mad at me. They say, why don't you leave? You're still, I said, well, the party left me. I didn't really, as I think I've mentioned some of the things, I'm still, I consider myself a Reagan conservative, and, the party has left me on a lot of things, and, like tariffs and taxes. And I think on, you don't stick it to people on healthcare and things like that unless you have a better idea. So I think, there's other things, and there's certainly things I disagree with, on Democrats, but I also think
Fair enough.
a person of character,
Yeah.
and you need to care about democracy and overthrowing elections and things like that. Or that democracy is my first basic. So that's, denying elections. We didn't even get into that. So,
Well, let's have you
Well,
back.
we're gonna have you back. We'll have you back. There's
Thank
plenty
you
to talk
so
about.
much.
Happy holidays to you and Bella.
yes. Well, happy holidays to you. Merry Christmas and happy Hanukkah. And delightful to be with, and girl power, women power. And
Yes.
that's a whole other issue too, because I'm very concerned with how women are being driven out of the workspace, the political space. And I think that's also part of this whole what's going on too. So
You and me both, sister. You're welcome back
Thank you.
anytime, Representative Comstock. Thank you so much for being here.
okay,
Bye.
take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Wow. A reasonable Republican. What an eye-opening. I was like, am I talking to a 2001 John McCain?
Well,
Like,
what's so interesting is, she kept on talking about like Josh Shapiro. And I feel like Josh Shapiro is what I remember of the Republicans in 2003. You know what I mean? Like
Totally.
Like I know that he's a Democrat, but it's like there is, and I think Karine might have had some technical difficulties, but she talks about this a lot. It's like, it does feel like there's just a complete reshuffling of like what used to be Republican is now centrist Democrat, and MAGA is its own thing, but America first. And then there's the Democratic Socialists. It's like, it's such a remix of everything. But the way she was describing her affiliations, I'm like, it's so interesting. Josh Shapiro, like it makes total sense that she loves Josh Shapiro. He's what I remember of the Conservative Party when I was in high school,
Yeah. Well, I gotta ask you, what's having a moment for you right now on this wintry week?
Well, I guess for starters, it's not wintry here in LA. It was 82.
Yeah, okay, show off.
Okay, what's having a moment for me is this new ad campaign for the new A24 movie Drama with Robert Pattinson and Zendaya. And part of what they did was put a marriage announcement in the Boston Globe. And like, what's clear about their ad campaign is this is a story about like a classic Boston marriage that seems to have gone totally awry. And what I love about this marriage announcement is I'm like, yeah, I know exactly this couple. He's like a handsome intellectual. She's like a beautiful, cool girl. They look so cool. And I think that probably the movie is about how, like disastrous on an epic level their marriage actually is. But I just thought that was such a clever ad campaign to put a marriage announcement in the Boston Globe as if they were that couple. So that had a moment for me. It's good marketing.
I also will say, like, even though A24, like, mixed feelings, whatever, but like, as we talk about how like, oh, nothing good gets made anymore. Rush Hour 4 is coming. So what? But I did have this feeling of like, people are going to continue to be creative. Like, that's kind of how, when I saw it, I was like, this is not your regular marketing campaign. Like, this is so cool.
It's so clever.
And
It makes me excited to
print journalism. It's using print journalism, which is really fucking cool.
and like giving like local, like you and I both have spent time in Boston. It's just so
It's
I'm like,
so
I know
Boston.
exactly who this couple is. And the fact that they got it so well says so much about the story. I remember, this is 824. I remember hearing like some, panel talk with the executives of 824, and they said something to the effect of like, people used to get into the movie business not to be billionaires. They got into it to have like do cocaine on a boat money. And they were like, A24 is a bunch of people who were like, that's the kind of money they want. And like, they're not making zillions of dollars. They're not, Jeff Bezos. They're making do some cocaine on a boat money. And that's why they make fun stuff, is like, they're not going for like mega ultra box office hits. They're going for things that like do well, that are fun, that are cool. And I thought it was such a good ad campaign. Whoever came up with that just like had their finger on the pulse.
Yeah, that's kind of like, I feel like all I'm looking for is like smoothie money. Like, I want to be able to like get a smoothie, and like, that's a step below cocaine on a boat, but it's like, I want to be able to go. So I went to Life Alive today, and I ordered an acai bowl, and I was like, God damn, that's expensive. But I was like, listen, this is, that's what it costs to eat like that. I ordered 2. That's why it was so expensive.
That's why it was so expensive. That's the thing about the affordability crisis that I think is really, really tough, is
people keep ordering 2 of everything. They're
well,
just like,
maybe it's that. But like, I think especially with millennials and Gen Z, I think that we're like, or at least I feel, I'm like, I don't want luxury. Like, I don't need to have, a house in the Hamptons and like, I just want the basic levels of comfortability. And even I'm doing, much better than lots of people. But my point being is, I feel like when we talk about affordability, it's about like, truly, like, we just want the basics. We just want to be able to like
not be my acai bowl that I have, once every 4 months. So I'll tell you what's having a moment for me.
Tell me.
Let's get physical. I was up at the Hill yesterday in one of the buildings where it's mostly representatives have offices. And I saw a sign for a gym that's the staff gym.
Okay.
It's called House of Reps.
Oh my God. Wow. What a bunch of losers.
In the Rayburn building. Go do pull-ups in your jeans. I know it's just Sean Duffy and RFK Jr. in there, like growling at women. Like, but here's the funny thing. Because I'm always gonna do my research here. So I Googled House of Reps because I was like, oh, like maybe this has just always existed, and they're going to be like, actually, Meredith, this dates back to the Clinton administration.
Yeah.
Right? But I really can't find, like, they basically call it the staff gym. So I think this is my opinion. I think someone has rebranded this as House of Reps. Like, it's like there is like inside those buildings, there's like a barber shop, there's like a lot of different stuff, which like great, right? And I think it's like, I'm not hating on having an office gym. I'm not anti-office gym, but I'm like, that like Sean Duffy got this sign printed and then sent a staffer down. It was like, just put it in the hallway and see if anyone takes it down. Like, let's just see what happens. House of Reps. I'm obsessed.
So I also feel like,
go ahead.
I feel like, like Chuck, I'm remembering Chuck Schumer going on a bunch of interviews and being like, when you go into the gym with the Republicans, you can really talk to them. Like they always reference the gym as a place where they're like able to find like bipartisanship. And just now knowing that it's the House of Reps and imagining Chuck Schumer and like, Ted Cruz being in there with RFK being like push-up competition. They're just all such losers, like they're all such a bunch of losers.
They don't clean their mats after they use them.
100%. 100%.
Like, honestly, I give the folks, people probably come in and clean that place every night, but I'm sure there's damage that's being done during the day. So anyway, imagine the
I just want to throw out there, I bet not one woman, like the women go in there, maybe use the treadmill, and then they're like, I got to get out of here. It's like, imagine a woman being like, yeah, I'm going to the House of Reps, like,
oh,
never,
it's
never.
disgusting. It's like, let's think, who would go? Like, I feel
Lauren
right,
Boebert.
she's such a fucking pick me. She's probably at the House of Reps, like just standing around, which I can't blame her. Like, don't touch those machines. But yeah, anyway, so that's what's having a moment for me right now. And
I also want to throw, Vienna, our producer, just said, imagine the cruising happening in those locker rooms. You know who's hanging in there is Lindsey Graham.
Lindsey Graham
is hanging in there.
What do you think the Democrats would name a staff gym?
Oh, something so message tested to death. Like something that we couldn't even come up. It would have to be like the she, her, me, like, you know what I mean? It would be like the lamest. You'd be like, ugh. And I feel like it would be, I don't know, like whatever's happening in there. I don't want to. The weight of unity. Vienna called it the weight of unity. That's the Cory Booker gym. The weight
it is the Cory Booker gym. And he's like, guess what? It's dog friendly for all of my foster dogs. Like, I'm sorry. Cory Booker's foster dog is like, that is
adopted. Come on.
Honestly, I think that what's going to happen with Cory Booker's foster dog is he's going to adopt it.
Yes.
But this is like part of the journey of like, we fostered this dog. Does anybody want it? Like, oh my God, we can't part with it. And it's going to like, listen, this is not the checkers speech, Cory Booker. Anytime that I can reference the Nixon checkers speech, I am very happy. But look up sort of the way that politicians use 100%. Animals. And like, when the Clintons had to get a dog, they wouldn't let them get a golden retriever or a golden lab because they said it was too good looking of a dog.
Yep. Yeah, no, and the remember the Obama dog, like they do. Yeah. This is the thing. I think you're 100% right. I think Luna is making the rounds. They're like, oh, she's so cute on social media. What kind of attention can we get? Do people like her? And then, it's going to become the senator dog, and we're going to see it like on the floor with him. It'll be like him like pondering off in the distance with Luna wrapped around his feet.
Wait till they find Luna's old tweets.
Luna has some really strong opinions about women's identity and women and transgender people in sports.
Yeah. You guys, this has been so fun. I want to thank our guest, former Representative Barbara Comstock. I want to thank our guest co-host, our friend Karine Jean-Pierre. She will actually be coming back and co-hosting with us again. We can't wait to have her. As always, thank you to producer Vienna. This has been such a fun episode, and we will be back next Tuesday with, oh my God, so excited about this guest.
Yes, me too.
Jodie Sweetin from Full House and other things is joining us. She's also an activist. We can't wait to talk to her. She is like a
true woke queen. Like she's out there. She got arrested on the 405 protesting the Roe v. Wade overturning, which was like a deep cut because nobody's out there. Yes. And I really just like, Jodie Sweetin for the win. This is a long show. We got to go, but I'm so excited for Jodie Sweetin because she puts her whole titties into it,
Yeah. All right, you guys have a great day. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye.